Hello, hello, and welcome back to Guidance and Recovery, your sobriety journey podcast with your host, Keegan. Do you dive into something that you're maybe a little bit ashamed of? Do you feel like you maybe rub one out too many times or look at something too often? Well, today we are speaking to GT Tan, a reboot coach and no BS mental and sexual wellness coach. He empowers men to break free from porn and sex addiction, build unwavering confidence, and transform their lives. He isn't just speaking from textbook theory either. He has walked the path of struggle and self discovery himself. And he works with a company that has reached over 10,000 men to help them step into their power, redefine masculinity, and heal. He brings raw, straightforward, and actionable insights for us to help everyone else just find a better them. So, GT, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fairly well myself. It's a Saturday at the time of this recording, so I'm just trying to unwind, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself in, well, helping other people figure out that they might have addiction to porn and how you overcame it?
Yeah. Thank you for having me, first of all. I really appreciate your time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not easy for anyone to actually even like talk about porn in a serious way. Most of
Mm-hmm.
us, as dudes, we know like when we talk about porn, it's more like in a bro way, like the locker room talk, right? And
Mm-hmm.
almost like comparing notes and things like that, more in a joking way and things like that, kind of making fun of each other, right? But when we touch on like thinking about it, talking about it as like a problem, man, that's such a taboo. In doesn't matter which part of role you're at. So
Mm-hmm.
for any of you who are listening right now, I think this is something that when you want to listen to this, you want to just listen with an open mind. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is to allow yourself to ask yourself, is this something that you want to consider, right? Letting go or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, I'm actually like, I used to struggle with porn. I was exposed to porn, a little bit about my own history when I was like 11 and I was alone, right? In
Mm-hmm.
my cousin's apartment,
Nah.
and yeah, God bless his soul. Like he's passed now, for years and years. But
Mm.
yeah, he was yeah, no one was there, and then I was like just ruffling through like VHS tape
Oh no.
tape. I'm from a. I may not look like it. Okay, I'm from a different generation, from for compared to like some of your listeners, right? Who are
Uh-huh.
in like I don't know Gen Z or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I found one is like an unlabeled one. The blows black, VHS tape. I put it in, and then and then I whoa, what is this? And, like for me, I didn't even have a reaction. I didn't even know how to react to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was 11. I didn't even know what masturbation is at that point, right?
Mhm.
So and even up to today, I'm in my 30s now, mid 30s, and then I still remember that scene.
Mm.
That's how, and I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember
Oh yeah.
the first
I
time, Keegan?
yep. Yep. Yeah. For myself, I figured out masturbation without porn at a really young age, and then whenever porn came about, it was like, oh hey, look, like this is a thing. And I remember
Yeah.
that my cousin and I, we were trying to look up cheat codes for a PlayStation game, and he incorrectly typed in PlayStation, and it was like Play Satin or something like that, and it was a lingerie website, and that's how it started for us. So,
How old were
uh,
you?
oh man, I think we were like 8 or 9 or something like that. It was early. It was early, early.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then that's how you actually exposed to like pornography content.
Yep. Yep. And after that, it was all
Mm,
downhill. And then it like the
I
once the
know.
internet started, it just escalated even worse.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just like, well, I mean that at that point we didn't think it was downhill. We were thinking, oh, this is a brand new world. Okay,
Yeah.
Disneyland is in some ways, right? For a lot of kids, right?
Mhm.
And now, and unfortunately, you know what the average is now, like exposure to porn.
It's probably like up in the 80s or 90 percentile, I guess.
No, I'm talking about the average age of exposure to
Oh,
porn.
oh, age of exposure. Man, if I had to guess, it could be as early as someone could pick up an iPad and go on the internet. So, like,
6 years old is the average age now.
geez,
I
wow,
know. I
huh?
know. Yeah, because there's just so many unmonitored screens, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have so many screens, just there's no way like any parent can actually monitor the screens all around, right? Like this is part of like the devices that is in the schools and things like that, right? So anyway, fast forward right into my 20s, right? Obviously I was like definitely like sneaking around like do my teenagers or whatnot, in the family computer, right? I know. And get really good at like deleting, like browser history and things like that, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, and then go into like creating folders and folders of folders, right? Creating like different hidden usernames, for your computer. And those usernames are actually admin account. You get so good at computer because you try to hide a porn stash, right? So I think a lot of you who are listening can relate to this. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
especially the gamers. Whoever is a gamer here. Oh, yeah, you know how to use computers so well that like it doesn't matter what kind of blocker you try to use now. Okay, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
I also like went through a lot of trauma when I was younger too, right? So I
mm,
lost my brother when I was really young. He was 5, I was 8, right? So the only reason I brought it up, I'm actually pretty much, I would say 98% like healed from that now, in terms of like
mhm.
the trauma. Uh, I say 98 because there's always that 2% is unconscious, so I'm
Yeah.
allowing that, to like, okay, giving the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, porn was my escape route for
Mm.
many years,
Yeah.
right? It was like my safe space, even,
Yeah.
right? And to the point, like, in my early 20s, I was still watching it, right? Only around like my mid 20s, like 24, 23, 24, 25, I started like paying attention to it. And thanks to my mentor, who is also the founder and head coach of Elevator Recovery, JK Mazy, right?
Mhm.
And that's when around the time that I, came to United States. And
Mhm.
I grew up in Malaysia originally, right? Oh,
Uh-oh.
yeah. That's
That's
interesting.
that is an interesting thing. Uh,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
stopped being recorded because of low browser storage. Oh no. I think this is the second time it's happened, and I don't know if there's a fix for it or not. Huh.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Do we
hmm.
want to use maybe a different platform to keep recording?
If we jump to something else, I don't know what we could really use. Because Riverside is tied to all the accounts that are streaming right now. So
Mhm.
for
Okay.
recording, um, let's see. Trying to figure out if there's anything I can do on this end. To low data mode. Nope, that's just for poor Wi-Fi. Um, huh. Damn.
Hmm.
Hmm. Let me see if there's a fix. Riverside low browser storage. Do. Well, that's great. A Reddit post has that same pop-up, but no one has a reply on it. Um,
Oh, yeah. I know how that feels.
yeah. Um,
So, uh, Well, I mean, what I was thinking, it's also maybe OBS, on a
Uh,
Zoom.
yeah, I mean, we can definitely try.
At least the recording, like I don't know, like is this streaming live right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I see, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, got it.
Um, but that's the unfortunate part is that like the stream will happen, but then it's like I won't have the files to make the dedicated episode. So, um, let's see. Man, this is really unfortunate. Um, hmm. I mean, uh, let's see if I mean, I can run OBS just to do screen record.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we'll get that going. Let me pop it up.
Yeah, at least you have the recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yep. Okay. And there we go. We'll see how this works.
I can also run on mine too, so as a backup if you want.
If you, yeah, we can definitely do that.
Okay, yeah, because you have the recording for the previous portion, right? That should not be
Mm-hmm.
a problem, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then we can just
Okay.
tie everything in together.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I start recording on mine. So,
Okay. Cool.
oh, actually,
So,
1 second. Let me just change the speaker into my headphones. Okay, let me just stop and say something again.
test, test.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Let me just. Yeah, I just started recording on mine too. So
All right.
yeah, and it's
Cool.
gonna be like on the browser. So let's see. Let's see
Yeah,
if I
with the
can.
display capture. it's that's
Oh
okay.
no, actually, you know what? No, it's actually not bad. Like, I mean, I can see the whole entire thing and everything. I just turn on the full screen. So
Oh, there we go.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, for me, I got those little controls at the bottom for everything, but we should be good.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah,
Sorry about
improvise,
that.
improvise. Oh,
Yeah,
it's all
got
good. Improvise, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Like it's so funny. We were just talking about like the gamers and people who are good in like technology and everything. Well, you know what? We got two dudes. We can figure out.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Fast forward right around like yeah, in my late I would say like late teens actually I started having more awareness of like, okay, you know what, this is something that I should probably not keep doing, right?
Mm.
Like I never really was like a daily user. It's just more one of those things. It's just like, I would like go for like weeks without it or even months, and then sometimes like some really really strong emotions or even like some kind of event, and I would just prompt me into looking for like an escape,
Mm.
right? And then and boom, and then after you do it, you kind of like open sesame, just like a few days of kind of like mini binges here and there, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the listeners here and probably you can probably relate to that, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think when I first met JK when I was 21 years old, and then I think only later on he actually started educating me about it, on the science of it and how it actually affects the brain and things like that. And also he was already coaching other men, before porn reboot was called porn reboot, right? The
Mm.
system of the program. And
Mm.
so yeah, we got to the point that like he was already coaching a lot of men, on the side, right? To the point that about 8 9 years ago, yeah, he just reached out to me, hey, like I'm gonna actually, really go all in on this, and then that's when porn reboot like became porn reboot. So
Huh.
almost about 10 years ago, right? Then
Yeah.
he reached out to me about 8 9 years ago. Then yeah, and here I am. I'm like pretty much like been doing this, uh definitely like 8 years
Uh-huh.
full time now, on this, actually one of the questions you asked me earlier, oh yeah, you've helped like over 10,000 men. Like cumulatively, we definitely have helped way more than that. But just on the number of people I've actually personally talked to on my calendar, I actually can say yes to that question.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like maybe not like help in a professional way, all of them, because not all of them are qualified.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just about 3 weeks ago, I was just going through my calendar and look at like my scheduled calls, just the number of events. I had over like 14,000 of them.
Jeez.
I was just like, whoa, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
there's
Uh-huh.
that.
Oh
uh,
man, that's a lot of people.
yeah. There's a lot of people, a lot of conversations, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, all in all, just like I definitely got into it, and I was already went through like the reboot process, in a very different way, I wish I actually have the whole entire full system
Hmm.
as designed by we are what we have now, what our clients actually go through. So
Mm. Yeah.
mhm.
Real quick, you said that some of them didn't qualify. Was that just because like they don't watch it every day, or they don't really fall underneath the addiction category, or something like that?
There's that, or there's also another extreme. Like they got a little bit like, too addicted to the point that they actually got into like legal, issues and things like
Ooh.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the point that like it's a little bit like sensitive for us to actually even deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them also have got into where like they are qualified addiction level wise. They
Mm-hmm.
need the program, but mentally they're still telling a story of like, oh, you know what? I think I can do it myself.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
the most common one, right? And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
they will like, you know, just keep like telling themselves that story,
Yeah.
even
Mm-hmm.
though 30 years of addiction says otherwise.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, like, for me, a lot of, I mean, I have addiction issues, like, to just go back, and it was both with porn, and it was also with like drinking and some other substances. And let me tell you, like, the porn and masturbation go hand in hand with substance use or drinking. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, that was the worst of the worst. And I'm just
Yeah.
so do you help people, or do you find people are in that kind of whirlwind where they're not dealing with just the porn and masturbation, but they're dealing with
Yes.
other stuff on top?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like a couple of days ago, I actually have a, applicant, he actually show up. He had been, he's in, obviously I'm not going to say the names or anything like that. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
going to give a range, of like the
Uh-huh.
ages. He's in like between 50 and 60, like late 60s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then so like this has been like in a part of his you know universe, right? Since like yeah, like 13, 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and then when he actually started found actually substance, cocaine, you
Mm.
know
Oof.
and when he started learning how to actually prolong the session with cocaine, with
Oh
pornography
yeah.
and masturbation, right? That just take it like, and then now his addiction is all intertwined.
Mm. Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah, 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 and that's just like really it's really important for you to actually get help. Unfortunately, you do have to actually address both problems at the same time. Can't
Mm-hmm.
just do like one or the other. He actually
No.
tried. He tried like do one, like, oh, okay, let me just clean like drugs first.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason he actually used drugs was because of his addiction to porn and masturbation. So eventually the drugs keep coming back because he didn't really try to quit porn. He's trying to quit
Mm.
drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Huh. Yeah.
so there's
That
different examples. That's just
yeah,
one
yeah.
example. There's different, variety of different things or whatnot, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for highlighting that. And I mean, for myself, I know that whenever I started questioning it and really looking into it a little bit more, it was more after I had gotten into recovery in the first place. But it was more along the
mm,
lines of like, hey, why am I doing this? And the more I learned about myself, it was because that was my first form of nervous system regulation. Like I was not feeling safe in house and just not sure what to do. And that was,
mhm.
it would give both an adrenaline rush. It would make me feel like a little bit of self control in a sense, or like have control over a situation. And,
Yep.
but that release was always like that, oh, everything's okay now. And that was always like the,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
You know what that release is from, right?
dopamine and stuff, maybe? What?
Yeah, I mean, dopamine is one, right?
Uh-huh.
Dopamine is actually more of the anticipation,
Mm-hmm.
neurotransmitter. That's the dopamine, right? That's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, the next one, that next hit, right?
Yeah.
The calming effect, where like, okay, like it's okay, right? And it's the serotonin. It gives you the
Ooh.
calming effect, right? And then around that, it gives you that sleepiness effect. Okay, it's the tryptophan,
Uh,
right? But
uh-huh.
it's a combination of norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, right? And all of that, and a little bit of adrenaline too, just because when you are acting out, there's always a part of you. Doesn't matter where you are, right? Like you're like kind of like you're doing this secret thing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a certain level of like, hey, is someone watching or not, right? Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
and
Having
because of that, that adds on like to that adrenaline part of it. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of like having that mirror posted behind your TV monitor or something if your door was facing behind you or something like that. And I mean,
mhm.
I also think I learned how to detect where people were in the house because of that whole thing. Just like, oh no, someone's coming close to the room, close everything.
Yeah, I like have like you're so like your shortcut keys. Shortcut keys, and then just and you have so many lies that you created, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like and then I think like a lot of guys, also like start lying about what like when like your friend is like you're supposed to hang out with your friend and things like that, but like. Yeah, and that's one thing, right? You're not gonna like tell your friend what you were really doing. Come on now, right? And because of that, right? It's not about whether you watch porn or not. It's about
Mm-hmm.
how does it really make you feel, and is it actually adding value in your life? And
Yeah.
if there's a part of you, right? Because one of the common question a lot of guys will ask me, right? And especially when I get on these, podcasts, interviews and things like that, it's like, is it like what is it? What categorizes as an addiction,
Mm. Yeah. I
right?
mean, yeah. I would
Yeah.
imagine that it'd be something along the lines of you have to do it every day. You can't find yourself not able to do it, or you find yourself doing it for a lot longer, or something like that, I guess.
That's the most common one.
Ah.
That's the most common assumption of like that's an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's like a daily thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, with pornography addiction, right? Or actually any addiction at all, it goes back to your values. It goes
Mm.
back to how you feel about the behavior at a core level. If
Mm.
there's a part of you want to stop it, but you cannot stop it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's a certain
That's
level of addiction, and addiction has different levels. Like I think a
mm-hmm.
lot of people just keep categorizing, oh yeah, if you're a porn addict, you're like this, loser looking dude, like fat and sitting in like the basement of your mom's basement, and just like full of like junk meal, and I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
burgers and pizza, leftover pizza and whatnot. Like that's the image like people think about,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially like even like a pedophile and things like that. But no, porn addicts are part of the world.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
integrated. There's
Mm-hmm.
actually around like on average about 6, 7 out of 10 men have some level of pornography addiction these
Mm.
days.
Yeah. That
You know,
wouldn't really surprise me.
yeah, half of them, half of us, we're not really even aware that you have an addiction because it's just such a taboo to talk about it. And only that, like the fact that we grow up talking about it as if like, oh, it's just a guy thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What was it? That kind of something along what you said reminded me of old meme I saw years ago, and it was like guys will sit there and spend hours looking for the perfect video to finish for like five
Oh
seconds
yeah.
too, and I was like, damn, they're right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just like, hey, okay, open another tab and then yet another tab. And but these behavior
Hmm.
wasn't uh it was also trained by these pornography sites.
Really?
Oh,
Huh?
absolutely. Because you gotta understand. Well, first of all, it's both. Is how these porn sites they have such a in-depth understanding about the human sexual behavior and human sexual psychology. You know why? Because they hire psychologists, anthropologists, right? And
Huh?
like behavioral studies and things like that, right? Professionals pay them very well to actually design the algorithm and also design the website and all of that stuff.
Oh wow.
just
Huh?
just be aware of that, right? And I think a lot of
Hmm.
people don't understand like a lot of these businesses, they're there to make money, they're there to be profitable,
Hmm.
right? All of the typical porn sites or whatnot, it's owned by mostly one company, MindGeek, right? I think it's
Hmm.
based in, if I'm not mistaken, like Canada. And
Oh wow.
yeah, they generate about like $500 million a year, right? That's their you know yearly revenue. Yeah, like they have a
Wow.
lot of money. They have a lot of
Yeah.
dough to invest in. They can afford doctors easily,
Yeah.
researchers, right? So, and the way it's designed is just like because when you go into any sites, right? Those sites, especially any porn sites, right? It's not just one thing. You see one thing, and then the next thing there's another ad, there's another video that's suggested, and things like that. Actually, it's the same as YouTube. It's all these suggested and things, and then like and because our brain, the dopamine, reward cycle, right? Oh yeah, this. Oh, what about that? We love like novelty,
Hmm.
right? But especially with like sexual novelty, oh man, that's the worst because our DNA is designed to procreate, spread
Yeah.
the seeds.
Uh-huh.
like like that's our DNA. Like we
Uh-huh.
can't really change that. That's we have the same DNA and the same psychological makeup as 10,000 years ago
Yeah.
and our ancestors,
Hmm.
right? But now we have what? We're putting that on steroids.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hey, now you get to actually have access to unlimited sexuality and nudity on your freaking screen without
Hmm.
any effort, without you spending any money, nothing. You just
Hmm.
boom, right there.
Yeah.
And you like literally an average Joe now, or even a loser, have access to more naked pictures of women, right, than the
Hmm.
emperors from the past. No, just think about that. It just
No.
doesn't make sense,
Yeah,
right?
you're blowing my mind right there. Yeah, I never thought about that. Like even someone that had a giant harem would not have they
No,
would
they
be
don't have not like this.
no. They'd be
Not
jealous.
like this. Oh, they will be absolutely. Yeah, they will get addicted to too. Absolutely, right?
Oh man.
And for those because they actual have actual power. They have actual in terms of competence of like the conquerors. Like they are doing stuff
Mm.
and then they get the reward. It's very different than like we're doing nothing and we get the reward internally. Our brain can really distinguish that,
Mm. Yeah. Huh.
you know?
Uh-huh.
And then right after that, you feel the whole serotonin. Oh, okay, everything is
Mm.
okay. That is emasculating us.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
making us to feel like a sheep, more of a type B man rather than type A man.
Hmm.
Right? Type A means that you're just a lot more proactive. Type B is just like, in a very general sense, okay? We have a whole entire explanation of it, but it's more passive of version of yourself. There's nothing wrong with either or though. Like there's value on both, right?
Hmm.
In personality and also mode of yourself, right? But I
Yeah.
think if you're more of a type B man, you just tend to take like you don't really solve problem. You just like let the problem keep sitting and then procrastinate and so on. That's the tendency.
Mm, and that makes sense. And I mean, that would be, man, that's really detrimental to anyone growing up because, I mean, you've got to face life head on. You've got to sit there and solve the problems. You've got to actually, if you
Mhm.
want to procreate, you've got to put forth the effort in the dating world. And you can't just
Yeah.
sit there and be like, hope Tinder does any good because nowadays Tinder is all
Yeah.
bots, from what I've heard.
Yeah. I
But
know. It is. It is. And only that, right? Now we also have a very different dating world. That's a whole nother topic, right?
mm-hmm,
With Instagram, with like everyone actually can see, like reach everyone, right? And everyone has a very warped reality in the head of what dating world like actually is,
mm-hmm,
compared to like what the reality is, what they
yeah.
think, and what the reality is very different. And most guys, they don't even know how to talk to beautiful women anymore, right? They're actually attracted to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had that problem growing up, and it was like
I
the
had it too.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like if there was that real life version of like the anime nosebleed, I would have had that all the time growing up. And I was super awkward. I didn't know how to do it. I was never really taught how to do that kind of stuff, and I was always made
Yeah.
fun of, and just it was always one of those things that was like, why should I? If like I got porn at home, it's okay. I can feel good.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah. And now we have AI porn.
yeah, and I've heard that AI is actually being used for porn more than almost anything else. And that was kind of a weird statistic.
Oh
So
really? I didn't even
yeah,
see that statistic. That is crazy.
yeah. I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all, honestly. Like, I mean, like what, 90% of like the megabytes that is on the internet, the number of sites, it's probably porn.
Yeah,
It is porn.
probably.
Most of the traffic is porn, right? Literally, if you look up just like the top highest traffic sites on
Mm,
Earth,
uh-huh.
lifetime, you're gonna find at least half of them are porn, and the other half is like search engines and social media.
Huh. Damn. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Uh,
I know. Like it's
oh,
just like it's just billions of views every day, like or
oh.
trillions even. I don't know. I can't keep up with that stats anymore, honestly. I have ADHD. Oh, that's also another thing. ADHD guys.
Hmm.
Yeah, they struggle with porn. Even
Yeah.
more so.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Because yeah, like it takes like I have ADHD, and then I think a lot of guys have it, but they're not aware of it,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
It takes a lot more for us, with ADHD to like to rev up the engine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes a little bit more because there's a
Uh-huh.
lack of dopamine, like the baseline dopamine.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. So that's why, like, you have to like. Actually, there's also another interpretation. We are also going to release a ADHD workshop coming up. It's like gonna
Huh.
host by one of our coaches.
Mhm.
He's actually a neuroscientist. Dr. Rankin,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And yeah, yeah, and with our founder and CEO of Elevate Recovery, J.K. Mazie,
Mhm.
and both of them are gonna host like a workshop together, and it's coming up, right? Um, I have ADHD, so I actually don't remember what the date is. But I'm if actually any of your if you are interested, I can share like the link to you. Like for
Yeah.
guys to sign up. Anyone who's interested. It's
Mhm.
later. later in I think sometime in either this month or next month, so within the next couple weeks. So
Okay.
anyway, uh yeah, there is an analogy that we actually like to use is like actually an ADHD mind could also be seen as like we actually a supercar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you actually latch onto something,
Mm-hmm.
you can't
It
stop.
no. No.
Yeah, you gotta keep going. And then which
Uh-huh.
means it's very important for you to actually be on the right lane. If you're
Yeah.
on the wrong lane, you're on a slow lane, you're on a lane where like the Nissans and the Toyotas and Camry hang out, you're not gonna feel belong. You're gonna feel
Yeah.
like, why am I here? You
Mm.
know, and then you're gonna feel very self like flagellating, internally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you're like looking at all these like fast car moving forward. Why am I not there? That's also
Mm-hmm.
that. That's another thing is also like in the slow lane, it's a small lane. You're gonna crash all the time, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why it's so important for you to understand your brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? To fully like, oh, okay, this is what's really going on in your brain and how it functions. It's not about like thinking about it from a medical point of view where it's a disorder. It's just different. It's just a divergent, neurodivergent. That's what we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are ADHD, right? So
Yeah. On that note, I mean, in a sense, do you think that that's why a lot of guys go towards porn and stuff is because it is that fast-paced kind of thing. It's also that fantasy life, and it's like, oh well, that like I've heard a lot of guys be like, oh, I'd love to be a porn star, and then I've read on Reddit like the scenes behind everything, and they're like, the set smells disgusting and like all this other stuff, and it's
Oh,
just like, oh yeah, no,
oh,
that does not sound appealing at
yeah,
all.
you actually do not want to be, okay? So, I actually have personal, like, not friends,
Hmm.
acquaintances that I've actually met over in, years, right, of my own process of things, and journeys, right, that
Hmm.
have actually they are porn stars.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, I went on date with porn stars before,
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I actually know a little bit a thing or two about like the internal what's going on behind the scenes, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, the thing that's actually on the camera and is off the camera is so different.
Hmm.
Right? Because I think a lot of people don't keep forgetting there's also a cameraman that's always there. And it's not just one. It's a multiple of them. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good to like be watched. Like you're doing the act, man.
Like the old school days where it's like, oh, you have to do it after you get married in front of a group of people, and it was like, no, I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you really want to like just think of like how does one take that shot? Whatever
Yeah.
the crazy shot that you're into, guys. There's a dude right there.
No
Right?
thanks.
So
No thanks.
yeah, no, like and it's anyway.
Hmm.
Um, Going back to like your question earlier, right? Yes, I think porn is a very easy way for guys, to get like quick fixes and instant gratification. That's what it
Hmm.
is, instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, men who are addicted to porn, you're trained to go for the like quick fixes without any effort.
Mm. Yeah.
And because of that, is training your brain to do the same thing in other areas of your life.
Ooh. Yeah, I never
Yes.
really thought about that. Huh.
Yeah. And that's why it affects your executive function.
Ooh, and that's even worse for someone
Yeah.
that has ADHD.
That's why. Like I don't think like a lot of people actually fully understand ADHD, what that is,
Uh-huh.
right? And hence that's why it's so important for you to like really like understand it, you know.
Mm.
And even though you don't have ADHD, like you're also still prone to like instant gratification. And actually, especially now, and I suspect, you know, this is something that obviously I'm not the expert here, Dr. Rankin, and actually our CEO and head coach, you know, who's also Harvard certified as well, you know, as a health coach, wellness
Mhm.
coach, right? You know, JK Mazie. And yeah, like they would explain a little bit more on that. But I would suspect that there's also environmental induced ADHD. So it's not
Mm.
like you were not born with it because of you're not neurodivergent, but
Mhm.
you have symptoms of ADHD because we are constantly being bombarded with like, you know, 100, what is it again? 130 characters, right? You know, in Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And X, right? You
Uh-huh.
know, yeah. And then, and also Instagram, right? You know, short reels and things like that, TikTok, right? It's
Mhm.
all like just short term stuff. Even like an interview like this, a conversation like this, right? A lot of people have
Mhm.
already dropped off like the first 10 seconds. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. And I mean, that does kind of leave that whole gaping wound for someone that's in a committed relationship, you know, for the person that's addicted and will sit there and now they go to the bedroom and it's a slower pace and it doesn't have the same flair and everything. And so guys probably sit there and because I know I've been prone to that before, to where it's like, oh, I can't really perform like I thought I could or would want to because I'm too like it doesn't meet expectations or something like that, you know? And it's just like, well, how do you help guys overcome that aspect? Because that is one of those things, right? We're looking for that quick release, we're looking for that instant gratification. And I guess that goes back to being more of a type A guy, right? Or getting back into that type A mindset.
mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. Well, it goes back to you have to actually understand your behavior, first of all, and actually be very honest with yourself and how it affects your other behaviors of your life,
Mm,
right? You know, because I
mm,
think a lot of guys they stay comfortable with it and complacent with it. It's
mm,
because they're comfortable,
mm,
and it's easier to stay where they're at. It's just the law of inertia.
mm. Yeah.
It's easier to stay where you're at when you're still. It's easier to keep going when you're going. It's just
Mm.
law of inertia. It goes back to the Newton laws, right? You know, so it really it goes back to the law of nature, right? You know, so you have to actually really understand your nature, right?
Mm.
What is the nature of your addiction, right? And how it actually affects you. And in our program, we actually help you, like you be coach a system to install it,
Mm.
to collect the data, to understand the why, the how, the what, and the when, and the
Mm.
who, and the where.
Yeah.
So once you actually understand all of these basic factors, then you're like able to really dissect exactly what are the emotion that you'll be medicating with
Ooh.
porn.
Ooh. Yeah. That's,
Yeah, and not
mm.
just emotion, but emotions. Because most of the time we have complex emotions. We don't really feel one thing only. You
Mm.
could feel happy and sad at the same time. You could feel
Yeah.
angry and confused at the same time. You could
Mm.
feel like, you know, really excited and like kind of like disgusted at the same time too. Like all these feelings and emotions, right? You know, I think
Uh-huh.
it's very important for you to train yourself to be aware of it. Once you're more aware of it, you're able to actually understand it. Not necessarily like make a whole chart and be like a freaking engineer, like with spreadsheet and stuff, right? Unless you're more of a analytical type, you also have to understand how you think,
Mm.
right? You know, and
Okay.
how you process these information, right? You know, so
Mm.
everyone processes information differently, right? You
Mm.
know, you could also be in a more of a visual person or more auditory person or more kinesthetic, right? You know, like you feel things,
Mm.
right? You know, or you're more analytical. You have to look at the data. Oh, okay, all that stuff. So,
Mm. Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy that porn will sit there and both make people feel well. I mean, it goes back to the whole addiction aspect. People fall into this trap because they're not taught or really brought up in ways that make them understand themselves, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if it, so in a sense, porn is medication in a weird lens, because that's what alcohol was for me, you know, like it helped numb
Yeah.
those emotions. It helped me avoid the uncomfortable things. It helped me
Yep.
ignore whatever. And so, I mean,
Yep. You're not facing the problem of life, right?
mm-hmm.
You're living in a la la land, literally,
Yeah.
right? That you created in our mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and that's why it's so important to really understand your mind. Our mind is such a powerful thing. We have all these technology. The fact that we can actually talk, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this, as if
Yeah.
we're in the same room and we can record it. We can literally stream and actually like, and this video right here could like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be the internet for pretty much forever, right? As long
Yeah.
as it's there, right? One way or
Mm-hmm.
the other, right? And the fact that like, anyone who's listening and tuning in now are able to actually like pretty much almost like you're in the same room as us and having these casual
Mm-hmm.
conversation about something very serious and very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's because of what? The beauty of human mind.
Mm-hmm.
Without the drive to perform, we're not going to have internet. We're not going to have these computers and screens and lighting and all that, to make this production. There's no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if it wasn't for that drive, a lot of things wouldn't be around, like a car or a
Yeah.
plane or anything like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and let's really be very, very real about where that drive really comes from. It goes
okay.
back to the drive of procreation.
Yeah,
If you
pretty
really
much.
go into like the evolution psychology of it,
Uh-huh.
right? Why? Because in order for like a man to perform at the end of the day, you still want the sexual validation of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And because of sexual validation of women, men work hard, go to school, study very hard, and you actually become an expert at something and you make money in something. You become a provider, you become a protector, you know how
Mm-hmm.
to fight, or you know how to amass a lot of resources, you know how to speak and influence the masses. Why? Because we want the that validation
Mm-hmm.
from the female energy. That's literally how what makes the world run around.
Yeah.
Like, this is like it goes back to the hormones, right?
Yeah.
Right. Of course, there's also
Yeah.
higher purposes, like for example, helping others, right? Adding
Mm-hmm.
value in other people's life. You feel good about it, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
and that's but you're not able to actually tap into that unless you have a basic needs met. And
Mm.
sexual needs is one of the basic needs.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that you also highlighted the protector, the provider, because that is taking action. That is going and doing the thing that needs to be done, even if you don't want to do it. And
Yep.
I mean, you just said it that the sexual needs are a need. It is not something that we can just sit there and ignore forever, unless we're a eunuch or something. In which case, I don't want to be alive. But you know.
Oh, hell no. Exactly, right? Or you're just a saint, like you
Hmm.
actually like your life goal is very different. Are there people like that? Yes, but that's not me.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot of people. Most people are not like that, and
Mm-hmm.
or they pretend to be like that. Some of them, unfortunately, right?
Mhm.
And it's hard for some of them, in those positions, right? We actually we have pastors reach out to us.
Yeah.
We have professional athletes reach out to us. Doesn't matter how famous you are or how much success you have. With billionaires that we work with, right? With doctors,
Mhm.
addiction doctors, like sexual addiction doctors. They're our
Mm.
clients,
Huh.
right? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't matter how much they actually understand addiction. If they have an own addiction, you can heal on your own problem.
No.
You need help.
Yeah. Yeah. Addiction is addiction, and it doesn't really give a damn about where you are, who you are, what you do, or how much money
Yeah.
you actually got. No, none of that.
And how old you are, right? We have
Mm-mm.
clients, from 18 all the way to 94 years old.
Poof. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I bet that 94-year-old is making it a scene in the nursing home. So,
actually he wasn't.
ah,
He was, I'm not gonna name names, but he was a
mhm.
professor when he joined us.
Ah.
So, yeah, he was working with JK actually privately, for a
Mhm.
while. And yeah, I actually don't know him personally, but
Mhm.
like, I've heard of him. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's and I have a lot of respect for someone like that, honestly, like he
Yeah,
show
yeah.
up for his own values. It goes back to that. You
Yeah.
got to be honest with yourself. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, this is one of those conversations that had I not been on my own healing and recovery journey like I have been, I would have been like a porn and sex addiction. I'm not going to talk about that because I'm ashamed of that. And it's like,
yeah.
yeah. Like who wants to talk about it? And it's those things that we're ashamed of that actually bring us further into the darkness, you know?
Yeah, and there's also a lot of unaddressed shame in ADHD as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. So I mean, whenever you're helping people through this kind of thing, you're not just tackling one thing. You're actually making them kind of do like a strike, if you will, if they were to be bowling. Like you knock down one pin, but that one pin might knock down three or four more.
Absolutely. And not only that, for us, it's very important for you to understand because we are a whole living human being,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then all of us have what? Very simple stuff. Career, relationships, right? Financial goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? Social, right? Your social energy, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
say relate, that's a different part of relationships, friends, family, and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a part of like not everyone is spiritual, but like there's always this sort of need of a deeper meaning,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's spiritual, and we actually break that down into what we call reboot capitals. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you actually have different capitals.
Mm-hmm.
That's the concept that JK actually, in our system, we actually do coach our clients on, and you want to make sure that each of these capitals are at least, in your own standards on the
Mm-hmm.
higher end. If not, you're gonna be unfulfilled. When you're
Mm-hmm.
unfulfilled in any parts of these capitals, any parts of your life, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're gonna look for quick fixes
Yeah.
and escape pod, because it's just too much, for your brain, for your central nervous system to even handle it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you
Yeah.
break, and when you break, you look for the quickest thing to get that quick hit and dopamine,
Mm-hmm. Because then
right?
it makes it feel fixed.
Yeah, and after that, it comes with the guilt and the shame and the beating yourself up, and then like you like okay, and then a lot of guys you were just like, oh, okay, I already did it once, okay, well, might as well one more
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you broke it, right? Especially those who was like trying to actually like really control it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then unfortunately the typical traditional, or I would say not traditional, like conventional recovery method doesn't work. Why? Because you presume that there's something to recover towards,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But you've been addicted to porn since you were like 10, 11, 8, doesn't matter what age, right? Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much whole entirety of your adulthood.
Yeah.
So you don't have, original state to go back towards. Yeah, when you break a
No.
bone, well, you broke it, but before
Yeah.
you broke it, it was okay.
Uh,
But now you started with that.
Mhm.
That's part of the package.
Yeah.
So you cannot, like, the recovery model doesn't work anymore. That's why, like, I have a lot of like respect and gratitude, towards my mentor, and also the founder of Elevate Recovery, right?
Mhm.
Which he created the porn reboot system. You gotta reboot.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta reboot your mind. You gotta reboot your body. You gotta reboot your, spiritual, if that matters to you, your finances, your relationship, everything. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense because in recovery, that is the whole goal is to get back to who you were before the traumas and stuff or whatever happened. And that's one thing that I've come to learn is that like people have been asking me like, well, who are you? And part of me is like, ah, shit, I don't actually know because I've been masking this whole my whole life. I've had someone else to mirror. I've had other things to base who I am off of,
yeah,
and without those things, then it's like, oh, well, I have to make this. This is, And so,
yeah, and you freak out. You're like, I never know how. Wait, well, oh, I have a empty canvas, a blank canvas to paint, and
uh-huh.
it's a white. And what do I start with? And you start freaking out
Yep.
because our phones has been spoon feeding us
Hmm.
all these things and
Yep.
prevent us from having an independent thinker.
Hmm. Yeah.
you know yeah, and there's also another thing I do want to make a comment on this. It's the reasoning. I haven't really fact checked it, to be honest with this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. I think
Hmm.
there is a study, apparently, or survey that suggested that for the first time, the younger generation has lower IQ than their parents'
Yep.
generation because of AI,
Yep.
because of
I've read.
ChatGPT.
Yep. I've read that too. What was it? Gen Z is the first, or Gen Alpha is the first generation that's actually slightly dumber than the previous generation, and yeah, it's just not good, not good
No,
standing, and porn
yeah,
does not help.
and no, yeah, I think they started like porn like in a different level, man. I can only imagine, right? Honestly, like I don't know, like it's anyway. Like, we do have a free course, parenting course,
Hmm.
for any parents here who are listening, right? If you're worried about your kids, being exposed to porn, it's
Hmm.
not about whether they will be exposed to it, it's a matter of when. So it's
Yeah.
better to be prepared mentally to
Hmm.
guide them. If you are a man, a father who is addicted to porn, still you want to guide your son to get out of it, well, you have to
Hmm.
get out of yourself first, right?
Yeah.
That's the first step, right? Before you
Yep.
do anything else. Then you're able to actually lead by example, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it's called the rebootedteen.com, rebootedteen.com. That's a free parenting course you can
Hmm.
definitely just hop onto. And then yeah, and hopefully, it helped a lot of men, a lot of parents, right, to be more aware of this. It's free. It's completely free, the parenting course. It's actually run by one of our assistant coaches, who is also a reboot hero, right?
Hmm.
Chris. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you for pointing that out. And Chris has reached out to me on Podmatch, and I'm like, oh, hey, look, another guy that's wanting to talk about this. Awesome. So I'm going to have to get him on here as well. Maybe we could make it a three-way call and figure out like uh, something else. I mean, because I want to ask, like, do you think that we could see you back on in the future? Because I mean, this is a deep rabbit hole that I mean, we have a lot to explore.
Yeah, it goes back to my schedule,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
right? Like, and then
14,000.
yeah, I know. So yeah, but yeah, I'm more than happy to, like, hop on, but I think
Yeah.
what would be very helpful, it's like if any of your audience, right, have
Mhm.
very specific questions that
Mhm.
they want us to actually cover,
Uh-huh.
like, and then you can actually send me a list of those questions. I think that will be very good. Then it will be a more like, specific kind of like a Q&A,
Yeah.
kind of session.
Yeah.
So Hmm.
Yeah, we can just totally get that figured out.
Hmm.
But real quick, do you got anything left? Sorry, my crows are out there.
It's all
Do you
good.
got
It's all good.
do you got anything that you want to leave the audience with for this afternoon so that they can have something to reflect on and digest?
Just increase your awareness and just be real with yourself and be honest with yourself, right? And then and get help if you need help, right? You can't do this alone. And you're not alone. It's okay, right? It's okay to be addicted to porn, right? You're not a bad person.
No.
No, no,
Yeah.
you just live in a new world and there's new problems, and then these are the challenges that you face, right? And it's okay, right? And it's the system, it's the environment that actually made us this way, right? So,
Hmm.
and if any of you want to just have a private chat, if any of what I said resonate with you, right?
Hmm.
You're more than welcome to send me a text and reach out to me.
Okay.
My number is 505
Okay.
594 8279. Okay. I that's my work number, right? I do have very strong boundaries, on when I actually would respond and things like that. But you're more than welcome to text me, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll figure something. I will figure out, and everything you share with me is confidential and it's zero judgment,
Hmm.
right? And if
Yeah.
you rather, like, I'd rather email. I'm a little shy, I don't want to text, I don't want to call, right? Just
Hmm.
email me, gt@elevaterecovery.org, right? Or you can just look us up, look
Yeah.
us up on our website, elevaterecovery.org, or porn reboot channel, our YouTube
Okay.
channel. We have over 2,000 videos that you can literally watch and learn and actually implement right away and actually improve your life right away, right? As
Wow.
a matter of fact, like our whole entire system is really probably been uploaded there. Like you do may have to find, certain things in there. It will take you a while. But if you're
Hmm.
like, you know what, I don't want to waste time. I just want to like solve the problem. Just reach
Hmm.
out to us.
Yeah.
There's actually, as a matter of fact, usually there's also a waiting list,
Mm.
to even join any of our programs, right?
Yeah.
But if you are serious, if you show that you are coachable
Hmm.
and this is a priority for you, we'll work something out with you.
Yeah. That's awesome. I gotta say thank you for doing that for people because this world needs it, and we've got brains that are meant to eat berries in a cave, and we've got this screen that is just feeding us constant information and making us addicted to everything and anything that it shows up on it. So,
I know. And then that's why it's all about just having the right conversation,
hmm.
and it's not a coincidence that we are connected. It's not a coincidence that any of the listeners are here listening and you actually listen all the way to the end. Thank you so much, for those who you stay with us all this time, right? With my ADHD mind, I kind of like go into different topics.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all good. We go into any rabbit holes that show up because we never know who's on the other side that needs to hear it. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so
of
much,
course. Thank
your
you.
questions and presence and your platform as well. So,
Yeah, I appreciate you and give my thanks to Chris and your mentor as well. And I mean, I'm looking forward to what the world has to say about this episode because it's one of those touchy subjects. A lot of people don't want to explore it, but
yeah.
I'm looking forward to what we can come up with in the future. But GT, I just got to say again, thank you for being on because it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And everyone else out there, thank you for listening to Guidance and Recovery on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you got to try to love yourself first. And if you're having a mental health crisis, you can dial 988 or text 741 741 if you don't want to call anyone. And try to be your favorite version of yourself today. Don't beat yourself up if you decide to watch porn after this. Remember, it's a problem and you can't solve the problem on your own. So give GT a call or text him if you want. But with that being said, we'll see y'all next time. Until then, much love. Schlan.